A car, a Formula One car, the fastest car in the world, going to the highest motorable route in the world. It's something which is unheard of. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we had already kind of put our plans together.
Hi, welcome to Beyond the Field, a show where I take you off the sports field and into your favorite teams and events. I'm your host Nadeem Sheikh, and I will be talking to industry professionals like me and provide you guys a 360-degree view of the thriving sports industry. Today, I have with me Gurbaksh Singh. He has over 15 years of experience working in the sports industry. He has worked across organizations like Redbull, U Sports, and two. He is currently the head of fitness and esports at Cornerstone Sports and Entertainment. Welcome, Gurbaksh.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Gurbaksh, we'll start off with our conversation. How did you develop interest in sports?
Yeah, so just to start from the start, I think when I used to play sport myself, and I started playing cricket. So sport, as in, was a very natural thing in our family, and that's exactly how I picked up the sport. Of course, my dad used to play professionally, and that's exactly how cricket came to me. When I say professional cricket, I would say I played decent enough to be representing at a certain level, but then unfortunately I couldn't like make it to the big leagues. I had some injury. But again, I'm not giving that any excuse, but like of course, I think the sport that I played was great, and I think lots of learnings in that part of my life. So moving from there, when I was coming out of the sport and I was kind of figuring out what to do in life, I think one thing that came naturally to me was to be in the sports ecosystem. And while the sports ecosystem at that point was evolving in terms of the sports education, I think what was the easiest choice for someone like me at that point, and I think that I would speak for a lot of people at that point, was events. And once you get into the events ecosystem, I think it's easier to pick and choose whether you want to get into fashion or sport or any of those fields within the world of events, right? So, and that's exactly how the sports industry kind of came through, and then I got a chance. And to be very honest, I was lucky enough to be kind of given an opportunity at a point when I was 20 to work with a brand like Red Bull. That was a great starting point. Yeah, so that's exactly how I started my sporting career. So, Gulbaksh, I wanted to tell our viewers about your experience with the Red Bull. Right. So, Red Bull was an interesting one. Like I mentioned to you earlier, that I was doing an event management course, and while I was working on some of these, part-time events that they kind of send you to work on, and that's exactly when I met this one gentleman who asked me if I've played cricket and would I be interested in working in a company which is starting off in cricket. I, at that point, had no clue what it would be, and he mentioned Red Bull. I was like a little clueless at that point to kind of understand that Formula One, of course, Red Bull, it's like just, that's it's motorsport or it's like a can. What are they doing in Red Bull? The whole idea was that they at that point was looking to start something in the world of cricket. It's an Austrian brand. The understanding of sport is very less, I would say. So as an Indian market, it really made sense for them to enter cricket, and it was a perfect fit because I had played some sport in my life, so my connections, I would say locally, the Maidan crickets, coaches, and the players that were there around at that point, it just made sense for me to kind of like, use that and get going with it. And that's exactly how the Red Bull career started. While that started, of course, it opened a lot more avenues because Red Bull's they have events which are like above and beyond. They are something that experiences that money can't buy. It's an experiential brand, and end of the day, it's not just about buying a can and like selling cans is one thing, but then the experience that they create, and I think that's exactly how the opportunity came, and then gave me a lot of, I would say, it gave me wings to kind of do what I had to do. And I think you spoke about Formula One. Red Bull is one brand that goes across sports.
They have Formula One team. They are into football. They are into adventure sports. Right. You name a thing, and Red Bull is there. You want to jump from the tallest building. Red Bull is there. You want to do skydiving. Anything you want to like jump from point A to point B. Right. They are happy to be there for you. Of course. So it's an incredible brand, and the experience that you talk about. I think that is what leverages the brand and helps it connect with its consumers.
No, absolutely. I think, like you mentioned, just a funny thing that you mentioned, jumping from buildings. I think that's passe. They've jumped from the stratosphere, so that's like they've taken it to like the highest level that a person can jump from. Yeah.
And what initially attracted you to join Red Bull?
I think it's an aspirational brand, and I think I've in my stride from that point till now. I've always kept that. I think it's a school for whoever's worked in that company. If they are being honest, they would say that it's the best place that they have kind of worked in. It's it allows you to kind of take the matrix of marketing. And they don't set like there are no set barriers where this is where you can think till, right? So it can throw a guy from a stratosphere to kind of take the longest bridge and take a car over that and land it and safely the athlete comes out and celebrates. So I think the matrix of Red Bull marketing it's just like over the top, and that's exactly what at that age, at that young age, it allows you to start thinking and uh, believing in those ideas. And I think the most important thing is the bottom line at Red Bull is you need to believe in the can to sell the can. If you don't believe in your own product, I think sorry, thanks and regards, it's done. Like, just go do something else. You believe in the story, and that's exactly how you kind of go out and say, this is what I have to sell, and this is what it is. I think the world starts believing you because if you are at it, the intent is right, it's there.
I'm sure Red Bull is an exciting brand, and whatever experience you're sharing, it is more exciting. I wanted to tell our viewers, how did your typical day look like at Red Bull?
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I think there are no typical days in Red Bull. Every day is a new day. It's like I think I don't know if the folks at Red Bull still are having as much fun as we did, but like yes, of course, there's a lot of hard work. And that goes without saying. But again, it's a great culture. It's very welcoming. It's like people from different departments they kind of gel together to kind of make a show happen. It's not easy. And of course, you make great friends at the workplace, and they become family eventually. But like the fact that you know lunches are important, of course. So Red Bull can't be treated as like your normal day work life, going at 9 or 10 and then finishing at 5 or 6. It can go till like 9, 10, 11 in the night, whatever that is. But like it's just like the most happening uh, workspace that I've personally been in.
Great. And what are some of the projects or athletes that you work with?
Of course, there are lots. But if I have to kind of pick,
Say top three.
yeah, of course, let's say so different. Let's take in different disciplines of sport. So I think the first one that we kind of pulled off was there was a event that started by the social arm within Red Bull. It was started in 2014. It's called Wings for Life. Wings for Life today, I think, has become one of the biggest running events in the world. The So all the money that kind of is being raised by or through the event, it kind of goes for the support of the athletes or people who are on wheelchair, and it's about running for people who can't run. And that's exactly how the formation of this whole event started. The first ever one, it happened in around 37 countries. The whole idea of this event is that this event happens at the same time everywhere in the world.
Globally.
Globally. So we got the time of 3 p.m. And the idea, the concept of the run is everybody starts running at 3 o'clock in different parts of the world, whether it's the US, Germany, wherever, it's the same time, whether it's day, night, it doesn't matter. So you get different time.
Yeah.
From the headquarters in Austria, you get a go ahead, there's a green signal, run. 3 o'clock, you start running. After half an hour of the run that starts, there is a car that starts at the speed of 15 kilometers per hour. Okay, the RFID, which is on chest number, is basically attached to the car, and the car is at 15 kilometers per hour. After every 20 minutes, I think I'm forgetting some minutes, or like whether it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or whether it's half an hour, the car speed increases by 5 kilometers per hour. Okay. And as soon as the car catches you, you are out of the race and you've done your bit. Now it's the first ever concept, and I think I don't know who's thought about like the brainstorming that must have gone behind this kind of event. It's just phenomenal. It's basically the finish line catches you. Yeah. You don't go to the finish line, and it's just phenomenal. So, but like now for us to kind of pull off an event like this, the mandate was we need a straight stretch. We need a highway. We actually went ahead and spoke to the governing bodies in Delhi, in Haryana, and we asked for the Grand Trunk Road. Okay, it's the highway that connects from Delhi to Punjab. And the guy who ran the farthest was 72 kilometers, and it was just phenomenal. So you have to stop the traffic. It's like going all out, first of its kind. You have to align yourself with 37 countries. You can't be like a minute late or minute earlier. That was one event that still till today it is one of the biggest running events in the world now. Now what they've done is they've actually taken it to the app. So there are very few physical events that they're doing, but the whole idea was to kind of get as many people to come and run and give it back to people who can't. Right. So that was the whole idea. I think the second on the list, or rather, it could be first also. I can't actually put first, second, third. Every event had its own set of challenges. When we got Formula One, okay. We got the Formula One car. Daniel Ricciardo at that point was the test driver. We had our main drivers, which was Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel. When Daniel came, we did a show car run in the right opposite the India Gate. So the stretch between the India Gate and the Rashtrapati Bhavan, Delhi. So it was a stretch of 2 kilometers, and of course the idea was to kind of him zipping it, doing donuts, and putting up a show. And there were of course filler acts like Honey Singh performed and this and that. All of that is great. Now while all of that happened, we delivered a great show. There was a small team of only Red Bull Racing, a crew from somewhere in the Middle East who had come to shoot this, and 6 people from Red Bull India who had to take the car to the highest motorable road in the world, which is Khardung. Now, a Formula One car, the fastest car in the world, going to the highest motorable road in the world. It's something which is unheard of. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we had already kind of put our plans together. Now, when we reached there, we had requested for a flatbed truck. Yeah. Right? So the car went in a flatbed truck. It reached Ladakh. Now, after reaching there, we had requested for a forklift. Okay. But instead of getting a forklift, the guy sent a crane. But the top of the tempo was like you needed a forklift to remove the stuff from the car, and that's the stuff which will be required to start the car. You can't put a crane inside. And in Ladakh, being small place, 2012, resources were less. We really didn't know what we have to do, and time is of essence because 4 days we quickly shoot. The weather conditions are not like always in your favor. One colleague of ours, her father was a major general in the army, and we actually got our life sorted because of that one person. We took the tempo to the Air Force base in Ladakh. We got the Air Force guys to kind of take the forklift, remove the stuff out, put it in another tempo, and then we kind of started it. And then like including me and a few others were kind of like taken and given oxygen because the oxygen levels dropped at top. But that was like a show that we had to kind of 4 days. One guy was sent back because The doctors actually, and this is all on Discovery Channel, right? So this is basically all documented. The doctor had told this one guy that if you stay for one more day, I might not be able to kind of do much about like what I do. So the guy was sent back in the next flight the next day. And you know that's the beauty of pulling off events of those levels. Um, the third I would say was we got motocross athletes to India. Again, first of its kind. India didn't have like haven't seen like the works of the best of the motocross that are athletes that are there. Same area, which was the Rashtrapati Bhavan, same venue. And now we were supposed to take off from the lawns on one side, do the stunts, and then land the bike on the other side. So it's have the takeoff ramp, you do the stunts, you get the picture of with India Gate at the back. And that was the whole aim. So Red Bull wants iconic shots. It wants that picture that, it's like really stays. And that was the whole idea. Now, unfortunately, a day before, there was a riot that happened with regards to some permissions that you can't do anything on the lawns. So the permission of the road that leads up to the India Gate and the Rashtrapati Bhavan, that stays, that's with us. But the lawn permission is something that's gone. We had partners like BMW, Hilton, and everybody had put their setup, there were crowd and all of that. So plan B, one night before the event, I remember we were in a board meeting in a boardroom trying to figure out what do we do. Overnight, we got the vans of both the sides or diagonally parked on the road itself. Now, because we have the road permission, so it can be parked there. And the photographers who had come from Red Bull International, they told us we'll manage the shot because if you park it diagonally, you still go on top, you get the shot, and then you land it, right? So the work is done. Of course, brands were not very happy at that point, but we had to do what we had to do. We had to put a show together, and we pulled it off. And all of this is documented. You can see. So those are some backstories of the interesting work that we did. Great. Great. And there are many more, but like let's keep it to this.
Great top three. Apart from events, I think Red Bull is associated with some other top athletes in the country. And I wanted to talk about how do they go about identifying their talent and associating with them.
Right. So there are various ways of looking at this from a brand perspective, especially at Red Bull. The first one was, I think it's very simple, it's straightforward, is that you catch them young, and then you really need to have an eye for that particular sport to really believe and figure out who has that potential and who can actually go all the way, and then you put the money on that, horse. And that's the very basic or like the I would say the trend that Red Bull's always been or supported or like as in believed in. The idea was that right from Sebastian Vettel, I think at the age of 4 5 he was karting somewhere and then in Germany, and then of course he was seen and then he was inducted into the Red Bull motorsport family, and then today he's won 4 world championships with Red Bull itself. The other way was like, if I have to give an example, I used to run a property called Red Bull Campus Cricket. There was a large team, of course. We kind of put that whole property together. First of its kind, when I told you we started cricket in India, we came up with this idea of Red Bull Campus Cricket. So cricket for colleges, and then you represent your college. There's a national championship, and the winning team then goes for the international finals. So it happens in India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. To start off with, the next year we had 3 more countries and then 2 more countries.
All in the Asian subcontinent?
No, it was all over the world. So there was Australia, England who later joined in, then South Africa and West Indies joined in. Uh, we signed KL Rahul from there. There was Rabada who was signed in South Africa. So that is the other way of kind of putting a show to kind of identifying talent at your own events. So these are the two ways I would say that Red Bull kind of gets the right set of athletes that they want. And of course, it's done with an agenda to, of course, get an idea of a few events are done with that agenda where the seriousness of the sport is there. and how you can actually induct the athlete early enough from your own events to kind of take it to where they can reach.
From Red Bull, you moved on to U Sports.
Right.
I wanted to talk about the transition. How did that come about?
Yeah. So while all the fun that we had at Red Bull, I think it was time for us to kind of, for myself, I'm speaking for myself, the idea was to transition into a new chapter, or rather the phase of sport which was out there in the world. There was enough and more learning that happened at Red Bull, of course, but like the broadcasting business is something that was there, out there. Kabaddi was first season had happened already. There was ISL that had started. So the from a broadcasting standpoint and all the other team leagues and all the other sports work that was happening in the country, I thought that this is the right time maybe for me to kind of look at those opportunities. And fortunately, Yumumba came along. There were some of my ex colleagues, Supratik, who was uh, my boss at Red Bull itself, and he then moved there, and there was an opportunity that was offered, and I'm like, okay, this is the best thing that we could do, and we created a sports business house, which was, I would say, one of the best that was there. It's still there, and like U Mumbai is still one of the best teams in the league. And when it comes to fan engagement, to marketing, I think they're right at the top. So the good thing, the feel good factor was that the year when I joined, we of course we as a team made a lot of good changes for the season two, and we won the championship. And that was something that was like they actually shut a lot of places in Bombay. They took the trophy to the. They wanted to give it back to the people of Bombay, and I think what they kind of did was they took the trophy in the local train and let people kind of and with players, right? So these are Arjuna awardees. They are like some of the best athletes in kabaddi that you would have seen. And with those players taking in, they had an open jeep, some Harley Davidson following, so like a nice convoy and like having a lot of fun. Unfortunately, for that particular game, I was in Germany where we were doing a grassroots football program with U Sports itself. I missed that convoy part, but like I think I had my share of work that I had to do. But that is something that how we created, and that's the reason why I had moved to that space. So talking about you, Mumma, first season 2014, I think we made the finals. Yeah, we made the finals against Jaipur Pink Panthers. Second year, we again played them. One of my favorite player is Shabir Bapu. Oh wow! You're very few people who have actually told me about Shabir, because Shabir was considered to be like the strongest player by far at that point. Yeah. And he was, of course. And that period, like I can still name the first seven that played the first and the second season. We had Mohit Chillar, Surinder Nada. Right. We had Jiva and Vishal. We had Anu. We had Rishan, and I'm forgetting one more raider. I'm getting a space, but I'm not able to. I think Shabir was the seventh player. So this team was invincible, and I'm still excited speaking about them. You can feel it by the voice. Just an incredible team. Right. And along with Kabaddi, I think U Sports is into other sports as well. I'm going to talk about that. Right. So I can speak only from the time that we kind of I kind of worked at U Sports. So while football was growing in the country, I think it was very clear for Ronnie and like the management to kind of understand that while we're doing something in the world of football, we would want to go the development route. And that's exactly why we had a tie up with the Bundesliga, and the first two couple of clubs that they had kind of allowed us to work, or sorted them out for us, was Borussia Dortmund and TSG Hoffenheim. So the whole idea was to kind of identify talent from India at the age group of 12 to 14, and then take them to Germany for a six-year program. In fact, Akash Mishra was the boy, and like I have images of the first day taking the flight, and then I think that was the whole idea, and I think we kind of achieved it, even though the program is now not uh, you know it was discontinued, but I think we kind of uh, the objective was kind of fulfilled. fulfilled in a way that the guy now plays for India. Mumbai City FC, and he plays for the national team. And I think the national team was the aim for us always, that the boy gets a chance to go and play and represent the country. And that was something that we did also. Apart from that, while we were there, table tennis was the other team, that sport that we kind of invested in. There was volleyball. Very interestingly, we did esports also. I think we were a little too or like ahead of our time in that sense. Uh, Worked for us, didn't work for us. That's for like, that is something that we can look back and understand how. But esport at that point was growing. Mobile gaming had not come into the scene. It was only console. And the whole idea was to kind of create an ecosystem where esports athletes get the platform to kind of go and prove themselves and take it to the next level. But I think maybe it was early for its time, like I mentioned. There was one project that we were looking at, but it never flew. Was to do with U Motor, Motorsport. But yeah, these were some of the things that we did at U Sports, and the way the team has now evolved. Also, I think some of the work that they've done is phenomenal. I think one big important aspect that the team has really managed to do it beautifully is the creating the whole Mandali, like the fan base. And I think that was the idea, that while we were on our way out, in fact, the transition happened because some of the people working there, we worked together, and I think they've done it phenomenally well. So, the Umumba Mandali that they created, the fan base, I think they take the team to the next level. You can do only till a certain point, but I think after that, the fans kind of take over, and the vibe or the experience that they can create and the noise that they can create. I don't think without that any sports team would be able to make as much as you can. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I have this personal experience. I am part of the West Coast Brigade, who is the actual official fan base of Mumbai City FC. Right. So some of the things that they do, they have this flair show. They When the players enter, the bus comes in. They have this drums, and the players are also motivated and excited. Yes, we have to perform for them before us. Right. So all of these things, all the elements, I think the team, Mumbai City also, they also take steps and initiatives that they have these fans engaged, and that elevates the entire sports ecosystem. Of course. You spoke about Ronnie sir. I wanted to talk about that. How was his experience? I'll give you the reason for me asking is we had Indranil sir, who's the former CEO of Mumbai City FC. He spoke about Vimal Parekh, who's the owner, and he sitting beside him telling the technicals of football. What are the cards? What is an offside? Was he that familiar with Kabaddi, Ronnie sir, or was he just new to the sport? Of course, I think whichever anything that Mr. Screwvala kind of uh, you know uh, is part of, he's part of it fully. It's not just for the sake of it. And I remember there were times when, I think most of the time, that when we had to kind of present something to the board, and if Mr. Screwvala is there, it was from somewhere he used to bring up a point that we did not as a team could think of. And we are like, how did this man think of something like this while he has like 10 other things that are happening? So I think just hats off to the person, and like, being at it. And like, of course, with the Swadesh Foundation that they run, like, Ronnie and Zarina both, I think it's just like uh, uh, it's just the passion and the love for the sport that both of them, they kind of have put together this beautiful team, and the sport arm that is still there. So of course it's right there. The passion is right there. I wanted to talk about your experience at U Sports with the regards to the opportunities and the challenges that you faced. Right. So I think in terms of the opportunity that we had in front of us was to kind of get into new spaces. Kabaddi was new, of course. And now, after 10 years, you can really say that, okay, what a great, successful league. Of course, there was year one, year two, I think till year five, it was growing, and now it's gone to another level. Yes. So I think that opportunity was there. Like I mentioned with football also, we wanted to do something with football, but what? Uh, we got an idea of whether we want to do with grassroots or ISL, or there were enough and more avenues that were opening within that space. We chose grassroots. We did so that was again an opportunity. With esports again, like I mentioned, we wanted to grow the sport. We wanted to take it to create a platform for the athletes, esports athletes. So while all of that happened, those were the opportunities with TT volleyball. I think the learning and the challenges were maybe that we were going a little too fast. Maybe some of the disciplines were not ready to be taken to places where they reached eventually. I think like football for that matter, like as in the growth happened, but then we had to shut it unfortunately. Those are many reasons there, but like the fact that the pace was like
You were
too
running
too
out of
high,
time, right?
right? Yeah. So I think, and those are also like I would say great learnings in everything that we do, that I do in today's life. That how a property can be taken to a level, and at what time. That the timing is very very important, and I think that's something that I keep very my eyes and ears open when it comes to that.
And what was your role at U Sports?
So I was an operations manager when I joined them, but like I mentioned, small team. Everyone was doing a lot of things, and I think typically most of these sports teams are running in that manner. And again, like the energy, the environment, the people were great. We were friends from before, so we were kind of helping each other to do multiple things. But primarily, if you ask me, then I was like in the space of operations, but we were doing a lot of other things, right from sales and sponsorship, servicing, to help with the marketing team, creating new ideas, creating new avenues, all of that combined.
And according to you, how does the future of Kabaddi looks like now from here
Yeah,
on?
I think that's an interesting one because I've had this chat with multiple people. I think what will be interesting is that how now Kabaddi goes to the next level, because I think year one or maybe the year third of Kabaddi and the year 10th of Kabaddi, it looks the same. So I think what would be interesting to kind of how the stadium experience, how the fan experience is, change the whole look and feel of the sport. One. Second, how deeply it can be penetrated in schools and colleges. And third, I think that effort's been put multiple times, but like would be interesting to see is that how you can bring the sport closer to people rather than people coming to watch the sport. Because again, going for a cricket stadium, the packed stadiums, Kabaddi also has those. But can we give okay, let's look at it like this. If today we have to go and play cricket, we can play in a on a maidan or wherever, just take a ball bat and it's easier. Now people say that they have played kabaddi, while they were growing up and all of that. Great. But can we again set up a mat or an experiential kabaddi zone in a corporate park where let's get a few people and not necessarily have to play like a full size kabaddi thing? Can we have like some lights happening, like a game oriented around kabaddi to just give that experience of what it takes to be in that position? Yeah. So I think all of that needs to kind of come out a little more clearly to kind of really take the sport to the next level. But I'm sure enough is happening and teams are thinking differently, creatively. So,
I think you've seen the Indian cricket market and you've touched upon cricket in North America. What are the differences that you've observed?
so the major challenge is that uh, the Indian diaspora moving to that part of the world and the generations following are the guys who are looking at taking up the sport. The what would be interesting to see with GT20 with the World Cup coming around is that how the local Canadians have now they are looking at getting into the sport. One very important thing is the opportunity that lies in America and West Indies has CPL now, MLC with America and GT20. I think we can see that transition slowly happening where you can see a lot of Americans or Canadians respectively playing for their leagues. And in the close proximity of like a few hours of flights, you are getting to play the MLC, the GT20, and the CPL. I think that's the opportunity that lies in that part of the world. What would also be interesting is that the LA Games, the Olympic Games that are happening in 2028, uh, cricket is integrated into that for the first time ever. So automatically America gets a chance, and if there are more teams being part of that, and how will that happen, will be only interesting because we're in 2024, 4 years down the line, including the World Cup, there'll be enough opportunities, and I'm sure enough and more brands would like run their campaigns around the sport. So that would be an interesting transition to see the next 4 years in cricket in that region.
I think for cricket in general, I think that is the field that they are looking to conquer, the Northern American belt, because we've seen a stagnation in cricket. We had cricket, then T20 league, and everything has come to a stagnation point. Now, what is next? What is new? I think it's the Northern American belt because they have the higher purchasing power and everything else. We have this T20 World Cup. We had India Pakistan game at I think it's at New York.
It's in New York.
Yeah, and we have this LA game, so they will be exposed to cricket, and they'll be because they have seen baseball similar.
Right.
So I think they will have a good understanding and they might
Hopefully.
grasp it. Yeah.
Hopefully, that's the plan. I think for cricket to grow in that part of the world. Um, yeah, these are the big events that will really help to kind of change the face of the sport there.
I think along with your professional, we've spoken regarding your professional experience. Now let's come to a professional level. Let's talk about high rocks.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Give our viewers your fitness background.
Right. So, like I mentioned, I used to play cricket, but like after a point, I kind of stopped, or rather, was not doing enough and more fitness that was required. But I was, of course, always part of some runs or some workouts that were happening, but I was not fully into it. My uncle, interesting, my dad's younger brother, Arjun Singh, we have a family company, and he runs it. It's called V Sports, and within that, he trains people to get fitter. So it's about like a training program. He has multiple centers across Bombay, uh, and he's run more than like some 150 marathons across the world, including the world majors at New York Marathon to Tokyo, Amsterdam to not Tokyo, but he's done the Berlin Marathon. Okay. So while that was happening, I actually one day was I ran a 10 kilometer, and 10 kilometers decent, but like it's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I ran and I was like home, and then he came back, and then one evening I remember he was just telling me that tomorrow morning him and a few friends are going to swim in open water. Okay. Which was somewhere in mud. I'm like, that's super interesting. And I told him that, I would like to come. He's like, okay, we'll see. But, it's a tough one because I couldn't swim normally in swimming pool. Like my swimming was not that great. I had to kind of work a lot on my swimming. And he's like, open waters are a different ball game and all of that. I'm like, okay, let's figure this. Let's understand what are you talking about. So of course he was talking about a triathlon and a bunch of swimmers who would want to get into Ironmans and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure. And then I started doing some research around this whole event of Ironman. Ironman is a global property. It's a triathlon. So I've done 70.3, and that's exactly what I kind of told my uncle that this is what I want to do. And I started swimming. I put a plan together, and I think 6 months down the line, from never ever have run a half marathon, I directly went to a Ironman 70.3, and that was the time. From there, I kind of like just like I stayed there, and I want to stay there. So once that happened, and of course, like the biggest I had taken too many big calls at that point for doing the Ironman. First of all, enrolling for an Ironman is expensive. It's like 30 or 1,000, but still, there is some money that you're paying. So that was one. Second, your swimming is okay. So, and still going and participating directly in an Ironman. Open waters, I've never swam before because the water is not of the best quality here. So my swimming hours are done, but like, what about open waters? different ball game. And the third biggest stupidity was that I enrolled in an Ironman which was in Bahrain, not even in our country. So I'm taking a flight and like going all the way. There's a lot of cost that's involved. So I planned everything. And while I had planned and I had trained for this, I kind of managed to pull it off. And that gave me enough and more confidence to do the next one. And I did the second one in India because Ironman, by that time I'd come to India. Um, and while Ironmans are the sport that I really like, as in the triathlon is a sport that I really like, there was a concept which is high rocks. It's the newest concept in the world of running and fitness. It's called fitness racing. So there is a triathlon, there is marathons, then there are duathlons, swimathons, then there is OCR, which is obstacle course racing. And then there's fitness racing. So there were two guys, one ex-Olympian, one person, from the sporting industry in Germany. The friends decided to come together and they said that we'll create something called as fitness racing. So the concept is you run a kilometer and you do one functional exercise. You finish that, you go for another kilometer, you do functional. So you repeat that 8 times, 8 different exercises. And for me, I think I was just looking at a sport which I can change, something new. And I decided that, okay, let's look at high rocks. Great insight on your fitness experiences. Gurbaksh, I wanted to talk about how did you balance your training regime with your professional work life? How did you manage it and balance that? Yeah, that is something which is like I'm really proud of. That is something that I would really kind of keep going with. Um, when I decided to get or like do my first triathlon, like the timings are like it's like a typical 10 to 5 or 10 to 6 kind of job. Of course, on some days you can request your boss to kind of let you go early or go back, like or come late for the thing. But those 6 months when you are planning for your Ironman, or rather any event that comes, that there's a lot of discipline that comes in your life. And I think that is something, including my high rocks that I did, including both the triathlons, both the Ironmans that I've done. I think that's given me a purpose to kind of look forward for something. And I think everybody in life, if just a suggestion, like if anybody who wants to kind of get into something, please enroll for an event and start working backwards. It just helps. So I think in my with the work that we were doing, there were times where I was waking up at 5 in the morning, doing my hours of running and cycling because there are times that you have to do both the sport during the week or swim for that matter. And then again, you have to go back in the evening and work out or do another session. And I think 2 sessions a day, it really kills you. But I think the joy of the looking forward for something that you're prepping for, that you're planning, that is something that really sails you through. And I think that is a suggestion that, or maybe just an advice if I could give, that enroll yourself in an event. I think start working backwards. That's exactly how I do it. I make a monthly plan. My Mondays, what are the mornings and evenings? Then my work kind of gets set in between. Of course, there are times that I'm not able to do a particular workout. So the whole idea is to get at least 75 to 80% of that workout or that plan that I've kind of put together. That's where it really kind of helps. Does your endurance training or workout help you professionally in decision making? Of course. And I think that's again something that I'm really happy and proud of. That you get a lot of clarity. You have to if you have to go for something, you know what you're doing. You know you are. I think in simple words, you are in command of your own life and your work life, and for that matter, even your personal life. So decision making, it's not like something that comes overnight, but I think over the period of 1.5, 2 years since the time I've started doing endurance sport, it's really helped me kind of getting a lot of clarity in a lot of things that I do. Uh, Overcoming and achieving something is just a feeling that I would want then for everything that I do rather than only just doing it for my running. So, you set a goal, you have to do this, and then you go for it. So it really, really makes a difference.
I've seen like I have also done. I'm also into endurance running. I do marathons. So what like during my training, I've seen top CXOs running. So I've seen Chandra sir, Tata Steel chairman. I have seen TV Narendra sir, who's chairman of I think he's with Tata Steel. Vaidyanathan sir, IDFC. All of these top professional, I think they have picked up running and they are into running. I think it must have helped them also, because it's a stressful life, working at the top level. It must have helped them as well.
Right, yeah. No, 100%. I feel that if you are at the highest level of the working ecosystem and you are still at it, and if you can make time for yourself to do what you have to do, I think it's just an excuse that then the world makes that I don't have time to do what I have to do. Totally understand with the stressful work lives that people have, but I think half an hour is not very difficult. And I'm saying it's not about just going from day one, going all 7 days. I'm saying, can we look at 3 days in a week or 4 days a week, half an hour? That's, I think, manageable. I think if you start there, you started, like you really started, and then you take it from wherever you want, or maybe just keep at it. You don't have to really do like these crazy events. Okay, if you like it, great. If you don't, at least keep yourself there. So, like the example that you mentioned, these are the top people in the world of sports or businesses that are there, and they're still at it. Right.
You spoke about Metal X.
Right.
Why is there a need for such an event to be held in Indian context?
Right. Um, okay, so while we came up with this thought of doing MetLex, first of its kind event, which is going to be in the space of fitness racing, I think what's happening is that, and I think it's with experience also, on ground that I'm part of these events. There are world majors happening. The world majors that are there. There are six of them.
Yeah.
A lot of people from India have actually gone and maybe participated or like ran all six. Now, while these world majors are being taken, now what's next? Some people have done one race multiple times. Okay, what's next? Okay, can look at a triathlon, but there are three sports involved there. So, or maybe people look at hill running,
Ultra running.
ultra running. Okay, that's also been done. Now what? Now then there are triathlon, then there's OCR, which is obstacle course racing, which is devil's circuit. Now that's again a different kind of thrill that you get. But the running and the functional exercise bit combined together is something that's not been seen in India a lot. Yes, of course, there have been smaller gyms and people do their trainings. Can we put up a show for that? And that's exactly why we came up with this need that's required to be fulfilled in the country is Metalex. So Metalex is a combination of running and functional exercises. The other aspect also that needs to be seen very clearly here is CrossFit as a sport is one of the biggest in the world. It's growing very fast. It's a growing sport. Unfortunately, in India, there are enough and more boxes where people go and do CrossFit. But what is so? If I'm training under a group of runners, I know I can go and run a Tata Mumbai marathon or a Pune marathon or like there are enough and more marathons that are happening in the country. What about the CrossFitters? Where are they going? They train and they train really hard. But what about like where do they go? Is there a competition that's set for them? No. I think this also kind of helps to kind of put that show together for people to look forward to, right? So this is a combination of CrossFitters to functional exercises and a little bit of running. And also very important, and I think we should be honest about this fact is that running is not everyone's sport and it is boring. So, so if you want to really say that, okay, we do another, we also did a run, okay, then you also did a run. There's nothing differentiated there. Can we look at something, and for especially for the new generation that's looking at, the Gen Z that's looking at running, I think for them it's very clear that they don't like to run just for no reason for 10 kilometers. So what is the aspiration? I think adding the fun element of jumping, running, squats, and different exercises that can be put together. The fun element, if it's there, I think that's what will appeal the new generation. And the yeah, so that's where the whole thought of Metal X came from.
And I think it's a good crossover between two separate things. One is running,
Yeah.
and other is the CrossFit training or say
Absolutely.
calisthenics, because people are specifically into running. They do gym training just to strengthen their
Absolutely.
running abilities. And people who are going to the gym CrossFit, they work on muscles but not on endurance like running or anything.
Right.
So this thing provides a crossover for both the parties. I think it's a great initiative.
Yes.
And this initiative is taken up by an organization called Cornerstone, where
That's
you're
right.
currently
That's
employed. Let's talk about Cornerstone. What is Cornerstone? Give our audience.
right. So Cornerstone is a primarily is a talent management company started in 2008. Has managed some of the best athletes to uh, celebrities. There is another part to Cornerstone, which is Dharma Cornerstone, which is purely with entertainment. With this Bollywood to musicians, so we have a music arm there. And within Cornerstone Sports, while the talent business is one, the understanding is that we have kind of penetrated into the whole creating new IPs, which we own, is something that we have. And so that is something that we kind of do. So there are four IPs that we already have. The fifth one that we are creating now with Metalex. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot of work that's happening at Cornerstone. There is now the Cornerstone as a company is now going to different parts of the world itself. So that's the other thing that you know it has its own international, right. So it has its own pace, arms and legs that's moving. Gurbaksh, talk about what is your role as the head of running fitness and esports at Cornerstone. Right. So with esport, we have worked with a few teams in the past. The whole idea is we're looking at the space of IP. I think what's important for us at Cornerstone with esports is that uh, there are teams that are doing great. Some are really struggling, but that's where the ecosystem of sport for esports is. Unfortunately, the game gets banned every second year, and it is the most important and the best game that's available for the Indian market, and that's where the tournaments are happening. What we really want to do with esport is that we are creating an IP which is around the world of esports and gaming. And the periphery of esports and gaming is much, much wider than just esports itself, right? So can we understand what a gamer likes? What like where does the gamer go to chill? What is the gamer's favorite food joints and stuff like that. So that's one bit of content that can be looked at. But uh, while what the gamer wears and the music that he or she listens to, can we look at creating an environment around that where the casual gamers and the non-gamers also get a chance to kind of be a part of that whole thing. So that's the space that we're looking at, and we're looking at creating an IP in that space of esports and gaming. When it comes to running and fitness, it's a vertical that we kind of started 1 year back within Cornerstone. We did our first run with the Virat Kohli brand, which was 1 8 run. The first event happened in Bangalore, and we saw great success. 8,500 people turned up. It was on TV. A lot of brands kind of lined up. Virat himself came to flag off the event. The understanding was to get into the space of running and fitness because we feel there's a lot more that can be done. And while we did the run as a brand activation, which was 1 8, so we did a 18-kilometer run. So that was the only differentiator that we had. But again, of course, Virat coming, and it was a great show that was put together. The realization for us was, what's next? Are we going to do any other run again together? Sorry, we are not. Are we getting into a space which is differentiated with a mix and match of running and workouts and all the other things that come around with fitness? That's exactly what we want to achieve. And that's exactly why we have launched our uh, new vertical, which is called Metalix. So while we do this, I think what will also be important is that how do we How do we go and attract or rather impact people's life on weekly basis or monthly basis by doing these running camps? Okay, are we the first one? No, but would we want to do it? Absolutely. But like I mentioned, running again becomes like, okay, everybody runs on a Sunday. Can we add some, the fun element to that and create like that whole smaller metal axis before we do the big one? So to keep that impact and to keep that right noise going on, that's exactly, and how we can impact people's lives. So that's exactly what our plan is with Metalex and the field of running and fitness.
Great. My next question is, according to you, how where does cricket stands versus rest of the sport? What are the differences that you see?
I think first of all, very important is that we should never compare cricket and sport, and that's been the case with a lot of people. While they trying to create something that cricket is here, and we have to reach here. Let's try not to reach there. Let's try to create our own niche and grow in that space because you have enough room for that. So cricket is right at top. The culture in India goes like 100 years back. No one's going to be able to touch that. And IPL and BCCI is doing a phenomenal job with what they're doing to keep that alive. So let's keep that aside for a moment. And now you see there's enough and more happening. So if you keep cricket on the side, there's enough room for every sport individually to grow. And what we've seen in the past is that I think there are enough and more leagues that are happening, but only few get it right. So I think a league done right with the right intention and understanding and making sure the final product also is appealing enough to the crowd or to the audiences. That's when you really can make a PKL great, which is like a mud sport that you used to say. So from there to making the second best or third best in the country,
Incredible job.
yeah, it's incredible.
So Gurbaksh, a lot of our audience are people who are looking to get into sports. They are looking at opportunities at sports. According to you, where can they be employed and how can they contribute to the sports ecosystem?
So see, the ecosystem has just become so big. If I have to speak about 2008, 9, 10, when I thought of doing a sports management course, there was no course for me to do a sports management thing dedicated. There was one in Calcutta. And I was like, if I go to Calcutta, study, I'm not very sure, right? So, and that's the time when there was event management happening. Now with GISP to AISTS to EMDI with sport, and there is ISM. There are so many avenues and so many sports education um, schools that are there for you to give very clear understanding of what you need to know to get into the space of sport. A lot of people go outside to study sports management. When they come back, they're alien to the whole ecosystem purely because they've studied sport, but understanding the Indian sports ecosystem, you really have to be in it to understand it. So I think one suggestion would be that get it right, understand the education. It might not teach you the technical aspect, but what it'll teach you is that where are those gaps that you can go and fill yourself or other, the opportunities that are enough and more. So how you can be part of that, how you can grab those. So it's like NBA. It's like networking and like understanding the whole the scope and the that is there. So it's not about going and studying a subject in general. It's about just going and understanding experiences, and then from there learning and maybe going and adapting yourself into those situations and positions. Sports infrastructure growing, of course. There are enough and more sports leagues that are happening. I think the government's done a phenomenal job with Khelo India, and I think it's fully growing now. So the whole wave of sport growing, it's happening as we speak. I think what will be important to kind of absorb, adapt, and be part of it in some way or the other, and then you grow from there. So
Great, great perspective. I wanted to give one advice that you have received which helped you professionally. and one advice you want to give to someone who's coming up in the industry?
I think keep believing in the fact that what you are bringing to the table and believing your ideas, your thoughts, and sticking to it. I think that's a advice that I had received from somebody very dear to me. It has always helped. Uh, and I think an advice that if I can give to the people, whoever gets to hear this, is to kind of do the right thing. The intent needs to be right. And I think just keeping it alive, I think some people just lose it in the midst of the process. And if even if that's the case, it's okay. Then you figure out what you want to do. But if you want to go all the way, just keep it alive, keep it like real, keep it nice, and be true to the thing that you are trying to do. So that's
Great.
that.
We'll take a step back and head into the rapid fire section.
Sure.
Okay, Gurbaksh, are you ready for the rapid fire round? One word to describe your journey in the sports industry.
Beautiful.
Okay. What is your favorite sports documentary?
I think there's a movie called The Greatest Game Ever Played. Everybody should watch it once.
Your go-to sports app or website for the latest sports update?
Honestly, there is no go-to sports app or something that I like, go and follow. But Cricinfo, and I think depending on every sport, you get your information. I think Instagram.
Okay. Okay. If you could switch careers for a day, what would you choose?
Would be in food industry.
Okay.
Cooking food.
Okay, as a chef. What kind of food?
Indian.
Indian. Yeah. Okay. What's your proudest professional achievement so far?
I think the proudest moment was when we won the championship
2015?
2015
Okay. If you could have dinner with any sports industry figure, living or dead, who would it be and why?
with Muhammad Ali.
Okay. What's the most memorable sporting event you've attended in person?
I went for a Bundesliga match of Borussia Dortmund,
Okay.
and I think that was just electrifying because the stadium was moving,
Okay.
it was shaking.
If you could bring any retired athlete out of retirement for one last game, who would it be and why?
Such. I don't know why, but like.
When you say Sachin, it's fine. Like I'm
Yeah, I
okay
think
with it. Yeah, everybody wants Sachin to play. Best advice you've received from any person?
Keep believing in your dreams.
Okay. I think we are done with the rapid fire round. It was an amazing experience talking to you. Had a deep perspective about all your experiences. I think that is it from our side. Hit the like button and the subscribe button and keep watching Beyond the Field. Thank you.